So today's project is going to be a planter. I've been looking to do one of these for quite a while and I wanted to find a design, and I found one on Steve Ramsey's YouTube channel, Woodworking for Mere Mortals. I've become a Patreon supporter of his because I think the way that he puts his shows together and the way he explains everything makes mere mortals like myself, who have never necessarily done any woodworking, pretty interested in being able to put this stuff together. So I'm going to give it a go and we'll see what happens. So the materials that I have are going to be pretty cheap. I have two 2x4s that I'm going to laminate together and will cut into 4 pieces. They will be the legs, so they'll be 4x4. At the top and the bottom of each leg I'm going to have some 2x3s, and each 2x3 is going to go between the legs. There'll be a groove cut in the middle, or a slot cut in the middle, for something called bender board. Now bender board is used around the edges of lawns and gardens. It's very thin, it's very cheap, and it's going to act as the walls of the planter. So the first thing to do is to laminate the two 2x4s together so that we can cut them into the 4 different legs. We'll cut the 2x4s in half so that we have 4 pieces of 4 foot in length, and then we will laminate those pieces together so that we can then cut them into 2 pieces again and end up with 4 pieces of 2 foot in length, and those are going to be the legs of the planter. So while those legs are drying, we're going to cut the bender board into shape. Now these panels are roughly 4 inches across, and I think I want maybe 4 for each side, so that's going to be about 16 inches for the panels. I'm going to give myself about 1/8 of an inch as a little bit of tolerance to allow for some slippage and a few mistakes that maybe I make along the way. So I need to cut these into I think it's 2 foot lengths, and I'll have 4 for each panel, so I need at least 16 pieces. The bender board's cut into 4 panels for each side. So now I need to cut the 2x3s to act as the top and the bottom for each of those, and then I'll move on to using the table saw to cut a groove in the 2x3s for these to slot into. Obviously better to have more material than less material. I did my usual thing and found that these are too long. 2 feet is actually the whole length of one of the legs, so I need to bring that back a little bit, and it's looking like maybe 6 inches. I need to take off each of these boards just about this much, because then I can lift up the bottom cross beam and there'll be a leg on the bottom of the planter. So I'm going to cut all these bender boards back down to a smaller size and we'll move on. To move things along, I want to put screws into each of the legs so that I can take the clamps off and let the glue set, but I want to be able to use the table saw to square everything off as well, but I need to be able to do that quite quickly, so I'll put the screws in now. Thing we need to do is to square up the legs. This particular leg, you can see that this one is higher than this one, so I need to just take the edge off that, and I'll use the table saw for that. And then also along the side it's kind of skewed as well, so I'll straighten those up using the table saw. Now we've got the legs squared away, the next thing to do is to take these cross beams, and I need to put a groove all the way down this length so that the bender board can actually slot in. Now in order to make that slot, if I had a dado stack for the table saw, I'd be able to do it in one pass. I could do it with a router as well, which I have got, but I don't want to set that up. What I have is the table saw, so I'll take 2 passes at each. I'll do one groove and then move it across maybe a portion of an inch, fraction of an inch, and then we'll make the dado a little bit bigger. So I need to do those for each of the beams that we have. I've finished cutting the slots in the cross beams here and put the bender board in to form a panel. So I have 4 panels here, and what's going to happen is that those panels are going to get screwed to these legs, and we're going to use some lag bolts for those. Once I've got those screwed in and everything's secure, then I have one more piece of I have 2 more pieces of bender board, one of which is going to be some trim on the top, and the other piece is actually going to be some paneling at the bottom for the actual planter. So now we have all the pieces ready, I can get those screwed together.